Here we go. Okay. Hey, Film Vaulters. Welcome to the Film Vaulters. I'm Mitch Burns, your host this week. I am here with listener of the Film Vault, CinemAddicts co-host, and my friend Bruce Purkey. Bruce, how are you?
Doing quite well. How are you? How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to have you on. Um,
Ramp that down a little bit. Lower your
uh,
expectations.
I'm Thanos collecting my Infinity Stones. I've got you, and I've got Greg. I just need no, I've got you and I've got Eric. I just need Greg now, and then I will be at full power for the cinematics. Well, and Anderson, but we'll get to that. As always, my guest picks a topic that the Film Vault podcast has done over his 20-year tenure, and today Bruce didn't pick the topic. He decided he wanted to randomly pick a topic. So he picked a number. I took all my topics and put them in a list, and he's picked number 155, and that turned out to be top 5 movies that feel like homework, but actually aren't homework. And I thought that was a good topic for us, actually. I thought that worked out pretty well. I definitely struggled a little bit with the list, but yeah, I guess we'll get to that. This is an interesting time to have you on. You've been co-hosting Cinematics for a few years, definitely.
Kind of. Like
Okay.
Well, yeah and no. So we've been officially co-hosting Cinematics now for I want to say eight or 9 months. But before that, we would sit in. So we would sit in on various episodes for about a year before that, like randomly, because Anderson couldn't always be there, and he has so many irons and so many fires that sometimes we just have to drop in and help out. Because we are at that point, we're pretty established with Greg on the previous podcast, which was Find Your Film, which still exists in another form. We'll talk about that. So anyway, yeah. So about 8 months officially on Cinematics.
Yeah, I guess I kind of fumbled there when I was writing my thing because to me, Cinematics and Find Your Film have always kind of been, but I've only been listening for maybe a year and a half, right? So for me, Cinematics and Find Your Film were always kind of simpatico and one, but I guess they weren't.
Well, they both have Greg. Always,
they both have Greg, yes.
So that's the common thread, I guess.
So Find Your Film, and I talked to Eric about this on the Film Vaulters when he was on, and because Find Your Film had kind of just went away, and in to the degree it's at right now, and now as I'm recording with you, Anderson has just left Cinematics. And left it to you, Bruce, and you, Eric, and Greg. You are Bruce. Yeah. So why don't you tell us a bit about Cinematics and how you got involved with that and Find Your Film, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so I probably be restating some of the stuff that Eric said, but it's I guess my kind of slant on it. So you, of course, have been in the Cinematics Facebook group, which is an old man thing to be in, I guess, but whatever. But it's really cool. Yeah, Facebook, all that.
Yeah.
It's not TikTok.
No, it's not.
But anyway, it's a really great group for just movie lovers in general. And so it has its own identity. And then in the midst of that, probably in the beginning of the pandemic, I want to say maybe in the first 3 or 4 months, I had put out some post, something like, hey, because everyone's at home or some version of at home. And I was just like, it would be so cool if we could like stream once a week and get, have like an Avengers of movies, like some of the people here in the group just get together every Friday and stream and just talk about the movies that we watched that week and stuff. And then immediately I got Eric and William Lindis got back to me from Movie Bears podcast, and Louis Lecau, who is doing various different ventures now. Greg, I was surprised Greg got back to me. And then he said, let's just do it. We just started a podcast, and that very short period was called Movie Mainline.
Right. Yes, I remember
very
that.
Short. And we were just kind of trying to figure out what the format was. And then we became Find Your Film. And that was pretty much just hardcore me Greg and Eric.
And that was after
And
William left, pretty
yeah,
much. Yeah.
yeah. And the weird thing about it was what we were doing for, I don't know, a year and a half or so before we ever popped in, before at least Eric and I ever popped into CinemAddicts, is we were doing kind of a version of what the original concept of CinemAddicts was. Because
Mm.
CinemAddicts started as every
Mm.
every week they would talk about the upcoming releases with
Yeah.
kind of an eye towards the indie releases. And they didn't watch them, very many of them though. Like they
Hmm.
would just say like, what do we think's coming up that looks cool and why? And
Yeah.
every so often Greg would have like a screener for one of those.
Yeah.
But essentially, we're just doing that anyway with Find Your Film.
Yeah.
We're like watching 2 or 3 brand new up and coming movies that we're going to release basically the day we launch the episode or the day later. Like,
Yeah.
it's like this week we record on a Wednesday. Friday, there's 2 or 3 indie movies coming out we're talking
Mhm.
about. So long story longer. No, we basically just we're already kind of doing that. It made sense for us to pop into Cinemax once in a while, and then I think Anderson has so many things going on that it's
Yeah.
harder and harder and harder for him to really even dedicate the time to cinematics. But he still, kind of is his love because it's indie movies. It's really talking about the stuff that sparks his mind, and I think he
Mhm.
probably kind of looked at it. I'm guessing now because he hasn't told me
Mhm.
this, but I'm thinking he
Yeah.
probably kind of looked at it and said like, this is kind of what our vision was anyway.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
let's just get this to become a weekly thing again, and I'll
Yeah.
pop in when I can, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And no, I love it. I listen every episode weekly, and you guys often have, between the three of you, there's 5 to 6 movies or more being discussed that at least one of you have watched.
Yeah.
So I listen to that every week while I'm working, and I just keep my letterboxd open. And then as soon as one of you says that you love it, I add it to my watch list, and it's been like a great service for me, and I can definitely understand why Anderson loves it so much, and how it went that way. So I love the show. So um and like, you can review a movie like nobody's business. Like, what does Anderson call you, the butcher? Like, because you can just,
Something like that.
yeah, you just take a movie and you can, the way sometimes you feel about it, and like, I'll watch it and I don't have the words. Bruce can sometimes just take it out like a pig and take it apart, and and really describe it better than anybody else can. So no, I
But
love the
it's
show.
but it's ultimately just my opinion. I mean, honestly, that's
Hmm. Yeah.
because I mean, people are going to wildly vary too. I
Hmm.
think I don't know what you think, but and you've been doing your podcasts plural
Yeah. Yeah.
for what
Yeah.
you've been going about a good 6 7 months now too, right?
Yep.
At this
Yep.
point.
Yep.
And I think the best thing you can do is really say like, what do you like about it? What don't you like about it? What
Hmm.
worked? What didn't work? Because
Yeah.
then at least a person can listen to you and go like, okay, well, I don't like the kind of things Bruce likes, so I'm
Right.
not going to listen to him
Right.
today. You
Well,
know?
and that's the thing. Like, I find with my other podcast, The Hollywood Persona, like, Ant and I, we won't, we agree a lot. And actually, this last week is one of the first time we were like vehemently disagreed with each other on something, and that was 500 Days of Summer. He did not like it, and I really liked it. And like, and then we talked about it, and we talked about why he didn't like it, and I completely understood why he didn't like it, and he understood why I liked it. And it's just it's just such a fun, and that's why I always, people are so quick to say, oh, I hate critics, I hate
Right.
them. And it's like, well, you got to find the ones that mesh with your view, and even then you're not always going to agree. Like, I agree with you a lot, but I hate Annette, and you like
Yeah,
it,
exactly.
you
And I get
know.
it. And I get it. There's certain movies. So tell me about this. So there's definitely certain movies that we watch that we like, and we know why people won't like it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's certain movies
Yes.
like that. Like if they're a pretty crazy movie one way or the other, like I don't would never take offense. Like, what do you mean you didn't like that? Like Annette, I mean, that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of
Yeah.
people. I even look at it and go, this is a ridiculous movie. And
Yeah.
I could see this being someone hating this movie easily.
Yeah.
So all I can say is like why I liked it, but hey, watch out. This
Yeah.
might not be for you.
Well, and that's why I like to. You guys always say, give it 20 minutes, give it 15
Yeah.
minutes, and if you're not into it, then you know what, you understand that that's not your style of movie, and like if it's streaming, right? Don't go out, and if it doesn't sound like your style of movie, don't run out. And I really appreciate Greg and you guys because you're not afraid to champion a movie that other critics aren't.
Mhm.
So like To Catch a Killer, I don't know if I would have seen it. I don't know if Anderson and the Film Vault, I don't know if that would have spread if you guys weren't the three of you so ready to just love it, and without even thinking like the critics were kind of bashing it, or
Well,
and Greg, like
yeah.
even with like Supercell, I don't know if you remember that, but like I
Yes.
sat down and
Yes, I remember
I,
Supercell.
I made my parents watch that because Greg loved it so much, and they were like, why do you make us watch that? And I'm like, I don't know, it seemed up your alley, and they were like, it's not good.
No, it's not.
So
It's almost so bad it's good though. It's
I
almost.
got halfway through it, and I was kind of just, no, I'm okay. But I like that style of movie sometimes, so that's why I
Yeah,
gave it a shot. So yeah.
sure. And I
Yeah.
think that's it's kind of funny you talk about critics, and so many times I hear that, and it reminds me of it reminds me of people say like the media, right?
Yes,
There's
the
always
media.
there's always someone in the media that's complaining about the media,
Yeah.
but what they really mean is the media that isn't them, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
so either they
Yes.
mean the quote liberal media or they mean the conservative,
Right.
whatever. It's that
Yes.
one.
Or the
And it's the same thing with
far.
critics, right? I mean, like Anderson even complains about critics, and I'm like,
Yes.
dude, you're a critic. I know you
Yeah.
don't. I know for him it's a dirty word, but
Yes.
if you're reviewing movies
Yeah.
and whether you like them or not in some kind of a format that other people might actually listen to or read, you are a
Yeah.
critic. That's
Well,
okay. It's
yeah.
okay.
It's just like if you're going to a restaurant and then, you leave and you and your partner are discussing that, you're critiquing that meal. I mean,
Right.
it's just the way it goes. And
Yeah.
it's not a bad thing. It's not a dirty word, like you said. Um, so, um, so that we talked about cinematics. That was great. Thank you. I love the show, and like I said, I can't and if you're listening to this, jump onto Facebook if you have it. Like Bruce said, it feels like an old man game at the moment, but not as many younger people are on it. But I use it a lot, and I love joining groups because the discussions are great. And the Cinematics Facebook group, there's a lot of great people in there,
Yep.
including Bruce, Eric, and Greg, who post a lot as well. So
And
uh,
it's not a kind of, I just want to, one little thing I'll say about it. It's,
yeah.
there's a lot of other podcasts, a lot of other people that print,
Hmm.
they write reviews, they do all kinds of things.
YouTube.
And
Yeah.
it is, started by Greg really, and it doesn't have any problem with you promoting whatever your stuff is. And I
Hmm.
notice some groups are really precious about that, right? Like if you
Hmm.
go in there and you're not the whatever that group's about, you're
Yeah.
not that specific. They're like,
Yeah.
stop spamming us and blah blah blah. Like
Yeah.
as long as you're not, I don't know, selling some pyramid scheme or something,
Yeah.
as long as you're reviewing movies and come on down,
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, we have lots of different people in there, like uh oh my god, Let's Crash This Parade is
yeah, Jack
uh
Fitzpatrick,
Jack Fitzpatrick, thank you. Like
yeah, Matt
I
Stillman,
yeah,
Joseph Bridges. Those guys constantly post movies. I'm just like,
yeah,
I have never even heard. Where did he find this movie? I don't even
yeah,
believe it's a real movie.
yeah.
Joseph Bridges posts stuff that's just
Joseph,
crazy.
oh my god, like I feel like Joseph has seen every movie now, so he's just like he waits for Tubi to post something new so that he can watch it, no matter what it is, because he
Yeah,
is constantly just watch like posting something that nobody's ever heard of, and some of it I love it. So
yeah, me too.
um were you a Film Vault listener before Find Your Film or
Oh yeah,
Cinematics? Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have a similar path to a lot of people. Well, fairly similar.
Hmm.
So I listened to some Corolla in the old
Hmm.
days. I very, very long time ago fell off of Corolla.
Yeah.
Probably,
Yeah.
probably like a
That's
year.
a That
common
seems to be
thread.
a trend here on
Yes.
Film Vaulters, but yes.
I fell off though, like, I mean, probably a year after the Film Vault
Okay.
started. But
Yeah.
I never listened to Film Vault, the early stuff. But
Hmm.
Orange Couch Days On, I listened straight on through, even to when they had the pause when they left Orange
Hmm.
Couch, and I was
Yep.
just like looking and waiting. Are they coming back or is it gone forever? Because sometimes this podcast just ghosts you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yep, exactly.
so
I've
yeah, I
had
listened to it that whole time.
huge, sorry, I've had
No, you're good.
just, but like big podcasts, like that, hosted by like big stars that you think like are going to come back and they just never do. No
Yep.
announcement, nothing. And it's weird, but so you're a
But
long time listener. That's
yeah,
good.
yeah. So long time listener. I was always it was kind of weird. I always loved it. I was always more into Anderson's style because he's just so passionate
Hmm.
about what he loves. And I definitely don't always agree with him, and he doesn't
Hmm.
agree with me,
Hmm.
but his passion is awesome. And
Yeah.
he truly loves what he loves, and he will stand up to it, stand up for it till the end. And
Yeah.
he does like to unearth those really odd and fascinating movies that you might not ever come upon any other
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So,
And that's, and I think sometimes he doesn't always get to do that on the Film Vault because of what it is and the machine it is now. But he definitely instills that in everyone else. So like, part of why cinematics is what it is today, because
yeah.
he wants people to just like, look, he's making indie stuff himself, groupers, he's working on a documentary, a short, and a feature at the moment. He is a champion for all that kind of stuff. So I love it. Do you have a memorable Film Vault moment that comes to mind?
Um, you know, I don't want to be what everyone else always remembers, but probably the same sort of things. I remember when mom and dad fight, really. those
That's
those
me
things
too.
those things always kind of catch up in my brain. And I remember the thing that led to cinematics when and if I remember correctly, because I'm old and
Yeah.
things don't get in my brain very well, but it was, I think, the episode where Brian came out and was saying that he's going to do Baldywood, and I remember that Anderson was really upset about that. And
Yeah.
there's points throughout the show where like it goes uncomfortable almost. Like you can tell it stops being a shtick at some point. It doesn't happen
Hmm.
that often, but when it does, it's like, oh wow, oh okay,
Hmm.
here we
Hmm.
go. And that was one of the ones that kind of stuck out to me. And then just it sounded for a while. I was like, oh my gosh, they might just be done. It might be the end of it right here. But
Yeah.
it wasn't. But it
No,
wasn't.
it was even, you kind of feel that vibe for even a few episodes after, even, after
Yeah.
that episode. It was definitely, the waters didn't calm for a little bit of time there. But I will always remember that as well too. So that's interesting. I think you're the second person to talk about that. But when mom and dad fight, it definitely keeps us all on our toes. And just to get to know you a little bit more,
Yep.
what are some of your favorite movies or directors?
I like one director I really love that I don't think you like very much is David Lynch, which I know you've discussed recently that surrealism is not for you, which
I did.
I totally get that. Understandable. I
Hmm.
also love Carpenter.
Me too.
Carpenter, I think, is one of my. He kind of epitomizes like what I love
Hmm.
because he's a great filmmaker. He's really cool and stylish, but he's also not afraid to just get pulpy and weird
Hmm.
and goofy and
Yeah.
bloody. And sometimes he's emotional and actually heartfelt. So I just love him because, and also you think of independent spirit,
Yeah.
he is like one of the poster boys of that,
Hmm.
I mean, Halloween is one of the most profitable movies of all time.
Yeah.
Straight independent feature that just blew up. He's like the Nirvana of filmmaking or something. Him
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Romero, Romero I don't like as much, but Carpenter I love.
Yeah.
I love Harold and Maude,
Yeah.
and I was just listening to that episode, but I haven't got to the part where you talk about it yet, so we'll leave that for later. Go back and
And,
listen to the episode he just posted as of whenever you're hearing this, a few
oh,
weeks ago or something. I don't know.
yes. And Oh, on the Hollywood Persona. Yes, I did
Yeah, yeah.
talk about it. Yeah, and I actually submitted it as a fan fiction.
Yep, I heard
This.
that.
Oh, okay, okay. So, just because I know how much Anderson loves it as well,
Yep.
and I actually almost wanted to put it on the list today. It actually, I thought about it. I said because to me it kind of looked like homework, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, um, ended up loving it. So,
Yeah. It
um,
definitely is one of those things that could fit as a homework movie because when you see it, it's like, oh God, it's this '70s movie about let's say after school special. What is this movie? You know?
and it even starts off like not obviously once you get into it you definitely know, but it starts off in like kind of a stuffy mansion, and I'm like, oh, see, here we go, this is
Here it
exactly,
is.
yeah, I was like, this is exactly what I thought it was going to be, stuffy mansion, boring. But I also, sometimes I see those movies and I just think I have an idea about them, right? And that's
Right.
I think that's what we will talk about a little bit more
Yes.
today. So you said your tastes probably align more with Anderson's, right? That's usually a question I ask.
Probably, because I tend to go for indie, more extreme, more weird movies. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, huge horror fan my whole life. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I probably one of my first movies that I loved, two movies I loved when I was a kid was The Haunting, scared the hell out of me. The original Haunting
Mm-hmm.
when I was like 5 or something, probably too young to see it, and Jason and the Argonauts, which is Ray
Yep.
Harryhausen, if you know, like stop motion and stuff. I love that kind of stuff. I always loved special effects. And then
Yeah.
by the time I was in the 80s, I was subscription to Fangoria. And every time I could, I'd go out and I'd be like one of 5 people watching Evil Dead when it came to the theater and
Yeah.
go to midnight showing of Dawn of the Dead and go see all these Reanimator with one other person in the theater, that kind of stuff. So yeah.
I love Reanimator, and I'll never forget. Not I have seen Jason and the Argonauts, but I'll never forget my teacher one time. I don't know why, but showed us the original Clash of the Titans, and I
Yeah,
love
they
that.
think it's history.
Right?
They're giving you
Maybe.
Greek mythology, supposedly, probably.
Exactly. And I just remember falling in love with that. That's when I fell in love with that, like stop motion and the creepy effects, right? And
Yeah.
everything. Like I'm a huge champion of practical effects. I just love, like, I can't remember what movie it is I just watched, but it was a newer, no, actually it was an old Graveyard Shift, Stephen King.
Oh yeah.
Um Really bad, but the last act has a great practical effect creature, and
Mhm.
I'm just such a sucker that like I had to give it at least 2 stars, or else without that it would, would have deserved one or a half a star, but I'm just such a sucker for it. So
Yep. Same.
yeah. So uh what let's get into our top five.
All
If
right.
Yeah, let's so I want to know how like you kind of came about your list. I'm very interested to hear. I was laying in bed and I kept taking things off and putting them on, not my clothes, the list. I kept taking things off the list. You
Homework.
know. Yeah.
Do what you got to do, man. If you gotta get naked to figure out what you like, you got to do it, man.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Or on the toilet.
Sure.
Um but yeah,
That's
no,
homework.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, so top five movies that feel like homework. It was a Film Vault episode that was released on September 30th, 2016. Movies Flick Fest on that episode were The Beginning of Life, Suicide Squad, Hardcore Henry, and The Magnificent Seven. I think probably the remake, I guess. Then because
Probably, yeah. Unless
probably,
Magnificent Seven doesn't sound like a homework movie, so I doubt that was that. So,
yeah. So yeah, take us into the choosing of your list before we get into it.
so first of all, we did like what, less than a day preparation. So that
Yep.
kind of forced us to kind of work on the fly, like
Mm-hmm.
fast. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of homework when you're a kid and you're given an assignment and you're giving those like constrictions, you're given limitations, and the
Yeah.
limitations forces you to figure out what you're going to do. So first of all, it was randomly picked. Second of all, we only had like less than a day to figure it out. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is what I'm going to do. I said, I'm going to look at only things that I have posted on Letterbox. So this is
Mm-hmm.
only things that have happened in the last, I don't know, 4 years or something.
Okay.
Movies I've given 5 stars to. Movies that I have, all of them except one I'd never seen. It was a first watch.
Yep.
One of them was mostly a first watch, but I maybe had seen parts of it as a little kid.
Right.
And all of them were things I had actively put off watching, even though I knew they were supposed to be great, and all of them ended up getting 5 stars for me. So that's the way I figured it out.
Yeah, that seems to be, except for my number 5, that seems to be pretty much the I guess my number 3. I put in like 2 newer ones. It's a little all over the place.
Same.
I wanted to kind of represent a little bit of everything. Something older that I like, that I know people are putting off, or something a bit more newer that just nobody in their right mind would watch if they weren't like us and they watch everything, right? See, I'm even regretting my number 3 now, but we'll get to it. And
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. No one is writing this in stone. We're not going to be met with this at the pearly gates.
What pearly gates? What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So I will start with my number 5. So that means you get to go last, if that's cool with you.
Sounds good to me.
So my number 5 is a 2015 movie, and it is based on a Shakespeare play. It is called Macbeth, directed by Justin Kurzel. And it is starring Michael Fassbender, Marion Cotillard, Sean Harris, Elizabeth Debicki, David Thewlis, and several other people. I felt like this movie got buried, and so I feel like this movie's homework in a lot of people's mind, and I don't feel like enough people saw it. Because I really, really responded to it and loved it, and it felt like it was a great way to do Shakespeare and make it so interesting. And I can see why it didn't get talked about, because as soon as you hear Shakespeare, that's 90% of the population just out,
Yep. Especially if you do it as the play, right? So many of them are like, oh, well, 10 Things I Hate About You.
Lion King.
The, so sure, you can do those things. West Side Story. Right? All right. Okay. People are going to they have to tell them afterwards that it was Shakespeare. But if it's actually done in some version of Shakespeare,
exactly,
that's a tough one to get people to buy into.
I know. Did you like this one? I don't know if you ever saw it, but
I did not see that one. See, that's gonna be a funny thing. Like, how much of these things that one of us likes is homework for the other person? So we may not have seen it.
I'm thinking I probably haven't seen anything on your list. That's my
I'm thinking you might have seen one of the ones.
Okay. It's probably a net.
No, that's not in here.
So yeah, I just think you should definitely seek Macbeth out, especially if I sat down and I watched The Hound of the Baskervilles from 1939. And that's based on a oh my god, what's his name? Arthur Conan Doyle book.
Yeah. Same one
Sherlock.
that did he's the same guy who did Tarzan and stuff, I think, if I remember correctly.
Is he? He's Sherlock. Like, he did all the Sherlock Holmes. So
maybe that's something.
Yeah. So I hadn't seen any, I haven't read any Sherlock Holmes. So I watched this movie, and it was just a great way to take in some Sherlock Holmes without actually having to read the book or made me feel a little bit more knowledgeable and I know things. I don't know things, but so check out Macbeth. I think he makes it really great. It's like Shakespeare done in the most Game of Thrones way they could have done it. So you're number 5.
Number 5. I didn't order these really much at all, so it's just going to be kind of an order. But I think I'll pick the number 1 because I think it's probably the most famous, and the one that I bet you some people have not watched because it seems like homework. Also, Arthur Conan Doyle is just Sherlock Holmes. I don't think that's Tarzan. I don't know where I got that from.
Yeah, and then you said that
brains get old. They don't work very well. I'm just telling you right now.
And then I was like, oh, you mean Rudyard Kipling? And then I was like, no, that's Jungle Book. So
Ricky Tikki Tavi or something, maybe.
Ricky Tikki. Yeah, we're all over the place, but
that's all right. All right, my first one. So once again, like I said, these are all ones I actively did not go out to watch. I went out to watch Aern't. I'm just weird like that. But this,
Well, so did I after I heard you guys talk about it. So
yeah,
did I.
this one's from '87, directed by. Well, actually, I'm going to read the little. On these, I put the little blurb from IMDb.
Mhm.
Uh, oh, and on each of these, I put down what it was about it that made it seem like homework. So this one,
Yeah.
it seemed like homework because this seemed like the epitome to me forever of the international snooze fest. You know, the international
Mm,
feature, it's period piece. It just seems like people walking around in costumes, and
right.
I'm going to be super bored and I'm not going to like it. And it says during the late 19th century, a strict religious community. This is not going to convince you any further. A strict religious community in a Danish village takes in a French refugee. I can hear you falling asleep as I go. From the Franco-Prussian War as a servant to the late pastor's daughters. But what is this movie? This movie is Babette's Feast. And
Oh yeah, you guys just talked about this maybe last year.
yeah, well, remember, all these are going to be things I've seen within the last like 4 years
Yes.
for the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
time. First time, all for the first time except one. So Babette's Feast. People love this movie. I've heard about it forever.
Mhm.
And I did end up falling in love with it. I mean, and everything I'm going to say about this movie, and probably all of these movies, are going to sound like homework. So
Yeah,
all I can
yeah.
say is, for me, it wasn't. For me, I ended up loving it, surprising myself.
Mhm.
And it is about all these big, highfalutin things, right? It's about like provincialism and small towns and religious bigotry and like, stuffiness, but also about forgiveness and
Yeah.
sacrifice. And the final act of this, I mean, the whole thing is great, but the final act of it is Babette wanting to give back to these people who've taken her in for years and years and years and years, and having all of these people gather together, all these stuffy old hardcore religious villagers,
Yeah.
and she is making them the most opulent French feast that anybody would probably have.
Mhm.
And she's like spending everything she has to do it, shipping in fancy foods and wines and liquors and all this stuff, and just having this giant feast. And it's just glorious. It's a
Mhm.
glorious movie.
I've had this in my watch list since you guys talked about it, and I think sometimes the clincher when I hear you talk about these things is when Eric puts on the
Yeah.
final. He liked it too, and not to say that
Oh no, because I can like some pretty stuffy, silly movies that are
and
pretty
and
high and
and
mighty.
I take your word on a lot of things and I love them, but like sometimes when I hear Eric agree with you, I'm like, oh well, then I'm definitely gonna like this, and I'm not saying I love everything Eric likes as well, but yeah, no, I have to see this one. It sounds pretty good.
Well, and I think my biggest disclaimer, and I think you would probably agree with this too, like we're not saying that any of these won't end up being homework for somebody. These might still be homework for people. We're just saying they
Yes.
weren't homework for us. We were
Yes.
surprised.
Like I
So,
considered putting Showa on because I just watched it like 2 months ago,
yeah.
and but no, it that was even homework for me, and I liked it. I
Yeah.
didn't enjoy myself, but um it was funny while making this list because the amount of times I wanted to say like, gosh, they need to do movies that are homework because I could make that list pretty quickly.
Oh yeah.
Um, so my number four, I love horror movies, and I really wanted to represent the genre in a movie that I skipped for a long time because it is a it's a longer horror movie. It's foreign. It's 2.5 hours. Foreign Korean horror movie called The Wailing. Um, Directed by Hong Jin, and I love horror movies, and I love foreign horror movies. I think my top 10 scariest horror movies are foreign. So if you like horror movies, you gotta venture into foreign horror because nothing's gonna scare you more. And The Wailing is just so well done. So the film centers on a policeman who is investigating a series of mysterious killings and like illnesses. Like you're thinking like zombies and stuff. It's a very weird movie, but it's also centered in reality. And they're in this remote village, and he's trying to save his daughter.
There's a
And
possession angle going on in it too.
yeah, and the characters, they are so rich and deep in this movie, and they switch from, there's even like huge tonal shifts at work because
Yeah.
of it goes from like, there's comedic elements in that first 45 minutes, hour, and then it switches, and oh my gosh, this movie is so good, 5 stars.
Yep.
And like I said, you just because it's foreign, I know if you have to use the dub version, use the dub version. I can't stand dubbing, but if you can do it, then watch this movie, because
Yeah.
so creepy.
I
And
think it's really, really good. I think
mm,
that it is tough for people though, because, well, international movies in general are hard for people.
yeah,
Korean movies, like I wouldn't say The Wailing is a starter movie for people. Like if they're
no,
going to get into Korean movies, I
no,
mean, definitely like something like Train to Busan
yes,
or maybe the Tale of Two Sisters. Those
yeah,
two, if you've seen
yeah.
that, those are two really accessible and a little more consistent tonally. And
I
if you kind of,
actually, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
yeah,
off there.
but I mean, I would say as a intermediate study for you in your homework,
Yeah,
the Wailing has a lot to offer, and
yes.
it like you said, it's a really weird movie. Like I would say in that movie, there was at least three times where I'm like, "Where's this going now? Like
Yeah,
what?"
yeah.
Because the plot itself is kind of, it meanders and does weird stuff, but when it all comes together, it's pretty amazing.
What's the movie? And then the other, it might be Korean, and if not, I'm sorry, but where it's like cat and mouse, and he keeps finding the guy that killed someone, and he keeps torturing him, kind of like beating him to an inch
Oh,
within his life, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
leaving him.
yeah. I saw the devil, I think.
Yes, I saw the devil. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's another one that I think kind of goes in with the Wailing. So if you
Hmm.
and like I said, and Wreck, REC, just Wreck. If you've ever seen that, that's one of my favorite horror movies, and it is
That's Spanish, I believe.
yeah, it's Spanish. Sorry, I didn't mean to lump it in there, but
Yeah, you're
that's
good.
another foreign language that I think might be a starter if you're into want to get
Yeah.
into foreign language horror. So
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
foreign language horror, I say the basic rule of thumb is mid late 60s to 70s, go to the
mhm.
Italians.
Yes, yeah,
Late 90s to early thousands, go to the Japanese and Koreans.
yep.
Um, and then after that, it's all bets are off. It could be anywhere.
Yeah,
So,
it's just opened the world up. So
yeah.
so you're number four.
Number four. So the reason this one was homework to me, this is the most recently watched of the movies. Um, it just seems like a boring period drama. That's why. That was my reason I wrote down. Uh,
Right.
this is going to be really obvious when I say this probably to you. A minor car accident drives two rival aluminum siding salesmen to the ridiculous extremes of man versus man in 1963 Baltimore. And this is Barry Levinson's Tin Man,
Yeah.
which I know you
Yeah.
probably heard me just talk about.
Yeah.
Tin Man, once again, uh,
I didn't.
this one and the one we just talked about, 1987. This one I knew about forever. I just never had a feeling I needed to watch it. I felt like, oh, this is just, this is just kind of this one of those middle of the road. Maybe it's a romantic comedy. I don't even know what it was, right? So
Yeah.
romantic comedy drama about a period piece because it takes place in like 60s
Yeah.
Baltimore. I just, other than Dreyfus and DeVito, I didn't really see, and even then, like they've been in some clunkers, so
Yeah.
it doesn't mean they're going to be a great movie.
No, and Levinson has had his clunkers too. So
Yeah, absolutely.
um, yeah.
And then this, I just watched this, and from probably the first 15 minutes, I was just blown away about how amazing it was. And I think on the show, I even said that this was like a more comedic Goodfellas to me, and
Mm,
not in the story form, but in the way that it is. What works so great in Goodfellas is it's the plot is there, great, but it isn't really the plot, right?
yeah.
It's
No.
these scenes. It's these
Hmm.
scenes populated by awesome characters. You know
Hmm.
what their motivations are, but there's also this weird unpredictability, and there's this banter, and all of the side characters are super colorful in Goodfellas. And this movie does the same thing in its own world, and it's a
Hmm.
more comedic world. It's a weird world of these like huckster aluminum siding salesmen, and then you've got this driving plot of literally the opening scene of the movie of Richard Dreyfuss getting his brand new car,
Hmm.
brand new Cadillac, backing it out into the street and getting hit by Danny DeVito's car.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and that's it. And from then on, knock
Just
down enemies for life. And that is the driving force of the movie, but it's all the little scenes within that are just so
mm,
beautiful and weird and rich and full. And it just feels like somebody, and I think it was, Barry Levinson probably had tons of characters in his life that these were basically.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it feels like it because there's such weird idiosyncratic moments, and it's just fun, vibrant, colorful in all the best ways that a period piece can be, and not
Yeah.
boring, not
Yeah.
boring. This is the one of probably of all the ones. Maybe there's one other one that I would wholeheartedly recommend. This is one I could pretty much recommend and say, if it seems like homework to you, it probably won't be. You
Mm,
know what I mean?
mhm. Yeah, and I hadn't even heard of it till you were talking about
Yeah.
it on. Like you type in Barry Levinson, like it's not one of his
No.
like big ones, right?
You're gonna see Diner. You're gonna see Rain Man,
Hmm.
right? You're gonna see all
Yeah.
that stuff, right?
So no, that's I'm again another one I added to my watch list from CinemAddicts. So my number 3 is 2009's Avatar. No, I'm totally joking. Um,
No, that is homework.
yeah, that is homework.
No, it's
No,
okay. It's not that bad, honestly.
and no, it isn't. My number 3 is my most recent one, and it's the one that I don't know why I put it on, but it was the one that came to me I think first, and especially I think just because of the title, and it came out last year. It's from one of my favorite working directors. It's Women Talking, and I
Yes.
just loved Women Talking, and I know it got nominated for an Oscar, so I'm sure everyone who is hearing this may have seen it. But Rooney Mara, Claire Foy, Jessie Buckley, and then Frances McDormand's in there. And it is based on a Canadian novel. Gotta say that Canadian
See
novel.
how you are. You're repping your Canadian. Yeah.
And Sarah Polley is Canadian as well.
Yes, yes.
So and it is based on a true story that happened in Canada in Manitoba about a Mennonite community, uh, uh, and in Canada, right?
No, I
But
thought they were in like,
Bolivia.
yeah, I was gonna say like South or Central America or something. That's what I thought.
Oh, it occurred at a colony called the Manitoba Colony, so that's why I thought it was Canadian. Never mind, sorry,
Or maybe
apologies.
it was based on an actual commune down in. It
I
doesn't
don't
matter. It
know.
doesn't matter.
It
They're
doesn't
like an
matter.
insular religious community. How about
Yes,
that?
exactly. And so it's basically um it starts with like a little bit of setup, but not much. Almost as soon as the movie starts, it is women talking, and they are discussing whether they stay, fight, or leave this community. And it's just I love these kind of movies sometimes where they just talk, and if the dialogue is
Yeah.
good, like I don't know if you ever saw Mass with that came out a few years ago with
Yes, I did. I did not like it, but we'll talk about that later. Go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, okay. I loved it with
Yeah.
Jason Isaacs and her name. I love
Plimpton.
her. Yeah,
Plimpton.
Plimpton. But Ann Dowd is the
And Dowd, yeah.
is I love her. She's in
Yep.
that
She's great and everything.
Heredit. She's amazing and everything. Yeah. So, anyways, Women Talking. I know it was nominated for an Oscar, and that's the reason why I was kind of like, people probably know it's not homework, but
No, they don't. This is like epitome of a homework movie.
I would think so, and that's what I thought. But I think I loved it so much that to me I just can't see it being homework. And it's one of the ones where like my parents did watch it and they really responded to it. So watch it. I it's very 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 good, and I think it is streaming on Prime now. I know it is streaming on Prime now. During Oscar week they put it on for like a week and
Yep.
then took it off, but now it is free to if you're a subscriber. So watch Women Talking. But
I wholeheartedly agree with you. How's that?
yeah,
Agree with you on that.
yes,
I think the exact same thing, though. I think this is a hard sell to people because you go, hey, you want to watch a bunch of Quaker-like women sitting in a
yes,
barn talking about whether they should leave their abusive men for 90
yes.
minutes? Yeah,
It,
that's not an easy sell for people.
no, not even like me some days. Like, but I saw the trailer and I knew immediately. I was like, yeah, with the acting talent and Polly, I knew. But I was like, now how do I get other people to be interested in this? Especially when I'm in Canada, I'm like, I want to be like, guys, she's Canadian. Let's support her. Everyone, go, go. But doesn't always work. But yeah, so
I thought it was great.
it was.
I had the same response that you did, and I wasn't sure when I went in there. I don't know about this one, but yeah, it sucked me right in, and I was along for the ride. It was great.
Yeah.
All right, me now, right? Number
Yes.
three.
Number three. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Why was this? Did this seem like homework to me? This is okay. This is the kind of movie that seems like homework because you totally miscategorized it in your mind. Like
Right.
you totally thought it was something else than what it was, but and you never even looked into it to see what it was. Like you
Right.
just like, oh, I think I know what that is, and you just kind of move along. There's like a million movies, so it's easy to do that.
Yeah.
I think I thought this was a prison movie or something. It's from the 50s. I'm like, whatever. But because Eric especially and Greg both praised this movie, and Eric had, really, really praised this movie. It ended up in the box, and then I eventually picked it out. Um, what is this movie? The little tagline for this one is a frustrated former big city journalist now stuck working for an Albuquerque newspaper exploits a story about a man trapped in a cave to rekindle his career. But the situation quickly escalates into an out of control media circus. And that is the 1951 Billy Wilder movie, Ace in the Hole. Kirk
Okay.
Douglas
Yeah.
and Jan Sterling. This movie has so many great things going for it.
Huh.
And it seems like homework, I would think, for a lot of people, right? First of all,
Hmm.
once you get earlier than, I mean,
Yeah.
depends
Sometimes
on your age,
80s.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're in your 30s or younger, I think probably anything before the 80s is probably pushing it for a lot of people.
Hmm.
50s is definitely pushing it. I mean, I'm in my 50s, so things in the 50s are pushing it for me. So
Right. Yeah.
and earlier. So this movie, what I love about it, first of all, is kind of like you hear from the synopsis, is Kirk Douglas's character is this like he's just a reporter that wants to do whatever it takes to get himself back up to the top. And he's a
Hmm.
loser reporter stuck in the boonies, and he wants to find a way to get back to the big newspapers. And how's he going to do it? He's going to do it on the back of this dude who's stuck in a cave, and he's going to find any way he can to make this such a big story and to make himself, Kirk Douglas, the center of this story, that he'll become, in a sense, a reporter celebrity, and
Hmm.
buy his way back up to the top.
Hmm.
So right out of the gate, 1950s, a lot of times your protagonist, your lead, your male lead especially, is often, especially with a big director like Billy Wilder,
Hmm.
your main lead is going to usually be at least a do-gooder or some version of a hero or heroic, or at least have great motives. He's not going to be an all-out villain, which he
Hmm.
basically is in this movie. But what really gives it its special sauce in this movie is it's just such a vicious, pointed attack. When we talk about the media, but it's not the media specifically. It's the way that society, combined with notoriety through whatever media form you have, loves a tragedy and loves to make a tragedy the drama of the week. And then once the whatever's happened in that drama has moved along, everyone
Yeah.
else moves along and leaves them to their own devices. And I thought
Yeah.
about like this movie is so great, so ahead of its time, amazingly ahead of its time, and one of those movies that you can probably watch forever and it will always be pertinent, unfortunately, because I think we'll always be doing some version of that. And
Yeah.
I thought about
Oh.
it as I was adding, as I added to the list. We just did it with the sub for the Titanic.
Yeah.
Just happened
Yeah. Exactly.
like
And
a week ago.
yeah, bring it up
Like
in two
every music
years,
report.
and it's gonna be
Yeah,
hard to remember. Like, oh, I recall
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, or pick. I think The Simpsons made fun of it when they was like, "What's her send your love down the well?" Because it was all a takeoff on the girl falling down a well, and that's the big thing for
Yes.
a while. So this movie is way more entertaining than you think it might be, and different than I thought it was going to be. I think that's the
Hmm.
big thing for me. It wasn't what I thought it was. Um, this is probably the only other one that I would say I'd pretty wholeheartedly recommend. I think that if you can get past the homeworkiness of the age of the movie, which all the rest of mine were going to have that problem. I think this one's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've definitely heard you guys reference it, but I don't remember the review, but I'll have to watch this. And this is Kirk Douglas pre Spartacus, and what year?
Yes, yeah. This
Yeah,
is this is 51. So Spartacus is like what 50? It's
I think
late,
it was 61.
maybe. It's later for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's still
Well,
he's still a he's still a known face. He's in
is it
so many
okay?
he's in so many noirs and stuff. But
Mm,
he is the lead in this.
hmm.
But he isn't quite Kirk Douglas yet. You know what I mean? Like Kirk
That's a
Douglas, bigger than life Kirk Douglas.
And he said
So
he's not playing like this hero, like he's kind of a douchebag or
oh, not even kind of like absolutely. I won't say
yeah.
all the things they does, but there's some things in here they do that are just absolutely morally reprehensible in the
Oh, okay.
situation that they're faced with. So
Well, so my number two, and for a second I thought it was gonna you were gonna say it there for a second, but you didn't. I
I swerved on you.
Yeah, I'm very very happy. Actually, I'm just gonna get the year of it because yeah, not because it was 1957 this movie came out. So I was very sure you were gonna say it, and I thought we were gonna have crossover. But my number two is 12 Angry Men, because I think this is one of those ones that people just say, oh, people say it's good. Oh, it's just a classic. It's a black and white 1957 movie. It's on all these lists, and critics just say they like it because they want to, say they like it, right? Because everyone else does. But no, this is a really, really, really intense, great movie. With great dialogue and a lot to say for 1957. And to see 12 incredibly well thought out characters all in one room, obviously, like Jack Klugman, Jack Warden, Henry Fonda is obviously the big name, Ed Begley, and then there's all the others. It's a great movie, and I it was on Netflix, and I remember sitting down and I was gonna eat lunch, and I just put it on, and I loved it, and I've watched it again, and it's a really good movie. So don't let uh, the fact that people put it on lists. I see some of those lists sometimes, like AFI's top 100, and I
Right.
just think like, okay, those are all the movies they feel like they have to put on there because and it's never gonna change. Even though I know it does now, it's starting to a little bit like shift. Um, but yeah, 12 Angry Men. Don't sleep on this one. It is not homework in my opinion. But
I agree. I agree. I think this is one of those that you can put in the category of you can tell people to watch it and they'll be okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was just like, it's so weird when you watch movies like that, and this is one of those movies where I sat back after and I'm like, why did I wait so long? Why did I not listen to other people? Um, and I think it's because sometimes you watch those homework movies, and they all kind of amalgamate in your mind. Amalgamate, I think that's a word, and I don't know. And so you like I hate Citizen Kane. I watched that and I just said
Yeah.
to me like
Well, sometimes
Citizen
they are homework to us.
Yes,
Right? We agree.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why, and I would have lumped 12 Angry Men or Ace in the Hole. Like I would have like lumped those together, these 50s movies that just seem like homework, and 12 Angry Men is not that. So
I agree.
uh so give it a shot, and Not much more I can say. You're number two.
Two, yes. So I would say my last two definitely could end up being homework for some people. So
Right.
I'm gonna free warn you out the way gate on this one.
Well, that's
So
good.
my number two, um, what was the reason I thought this was homework and I didn't watch it forever? Um, it was a really old movie in a genre I do like, but I thought I knew what it is and I'd already seen it, which basically I thought it was just a low rent version of, and this will give away kind of what the movie is,
Mm,
Nosferatu. So I thought, oh, I've seen Nosferatu, I've seen the original Dracula, so I've kind of
hmm
seen all of the old vampire movies that I really need to see.
hmm
But this movie is about a drifter obsessed with the supernatural stumbling upon an inn where a severely ill adolescent girl is slowly becoming a vampire. This movie is directed by Carl Dreyer from 1932. 32 would probably be our oldest movie. Uh,
Yeah.
Vampyre, Vampyr.
Yeah.
Uh,
I've never seen it.
it is not a silent movie, but it might as well be a silent movie. So this is the
Right.
weird thing about this movie. It's right on the edge of silent movies. So it still has intertitles, like you think about
Okay.
with silent movies, but it also has sound.
hmm
So it's really odd in that sense. Um, and once again, this is probably of all of my movies, this is the hardest sell. It won't be for everyone for sure.
hmm
It's silent. It's really old. Not all, well, it's almost silent. It's really old.
Yeah.
It's impressionistic. So you would be the person I would probably not suggest this one to.
I sounds like I would like it,
But
but
it's
maybe
on the
not.
verge of surrealism. I don't know. I think you would
hmm
definitely appreciate some things about it. Well, what makes it special? If
Yeah.
you've never seen Carl Dreyer movies, I've only seen a couple. Most famously, I think it's The Passion of Joan of Arc is considered his
Yeah.
masterpiece.
Yeah.
And the thing about this movie, when I watch it at least, is that I was blown away by how modern it felt to me now. And sure,
hmm
it's old, and you can tell the film stock is old, and it's kind of out of focus,
Yeah.
and it's not as it's crisp and everything as you'd see now. But he does things to the camera that are way thousand times ahead of his time, and he does some things that even today I feel like are truly creepy, as
hmm
creepy, if not more so, than some of the stuff in Nosferatu. So if you like Nosferatu, and that's my pitch. This is my pitch is basically to
Yeah.
horror fans and goths.
A bunch
if
of
you
ears just perked up.
Yeah, if you're a goth and you have not seen Vampire, you have not got your all your bona fides in. You have
Huh.
not done your work. Okay, I know you've done Bauhaus, you've done Sisters of Mercy, you've done your Cure. Okay, we watched The Hunger with David Bowie in the 80s.
Mm.
We've done all that. We did Bela Lugosi. Great, you did it. You got to do Vampire.
Mm.
So that's my pitch.
Is it one that could stand to be remade, or like I know that word is sometimes, but I mean, do you think it could be remade, or do you think it's been done in other movies kind of?
I don't think it has been done, and I don't think it really could be done because it's such
Okay.
an individual. This is a movie that's all about mood. It's not
Yeah.
about. So I guess I'll put it this way: if you've watched the old Universal horror movies, I don't know
hmm
how many. I don't know how many of those you've watched.
I've
Like
seen I've seen a few. I'm actually just starting to try to get through them. Yeah.
Bride of Frankenstein,
Yeah.
Frankenstein. Some of those are just gorgeous, like the
hmm
setting, the
Oh.
sets, and this gothic stuff they have going on. This isn't as big as those movies, but in
hmm
its own way, it has just as much style. So I would say it's more along the lines of, well, like Nosferatu or the Cabinet of Dr.
Yeah.
Caligari, all that weird expressionistic stuff
hmm
that was going on in overseas. Um, this is one of the best of those, and it's just so truly creepy and so amazing. Some of the stuff he was pulling off in those days. There's a moment where I'll just say where the main character where it goes into so you know how you do double exposure, right? To make something look ghostly.
hmm
You film it, then you film it again, and the guy looks like he's ghostly in it. And there's a point where the main character splits and he's like a ghost of himself, and he's watching himself in his own coffin. And the way it's done is just truly creepy and weird and amazing, and had to have been mind blowing in 1931 or whatever, 32.
Yeah.
Had to have
Yeah.
been mind blowing. There's a few other
Yeah.
shots in here. If you watch them from a filmmaking point of view, I'm watching them going like, this is an incredible dolly shot.
Yeah.
They weren't even really doing dolly shots at that era very much, and
Hmm.
he's moving. It's hard to describe, but it's quite impressive.
Oh, I will definitely watch it. I'm
You can
looking.
find this one. That's the thing about old movies. Okay, here's my other pitch.
Yes,
Here's my other pitch.
yes.
Old movies.
Hmm.
You can usually find them on YouTube and everywhere.
Hmm.
They're around. You can find them. Watch them.
Like sometimes even like not even old movies. Like I was the abominable
Yeah,
Doctor
Dr.
Fives.
Fives. Yeah.
I just my friend, like we're in a horror group, so every week we assign each other a horror movie, and both it and its sequel are on YouTube. So
Oh
it was
yeah.
just and I really ended up loving it. But
One of my favorites.
yeah,
Volnavia.
yes,
She is my princess of horror. I love her more than
yes.
anybody.
She was great,
She's
and
fabulous.
I don't have a lot of Vincent Price on my resume, so that was great. But
Watch
yeah, if
watch those two. Then watch Theater of Blood.
Theater of Blood, okay, yeah, I'll write
That's
that
kind
one
of
down.
it's kind of very similar to those movies, but in its own style.
Okay, I put it
Basically,
right.
he's an angry Shakespearean actor, and
Oh,
he's killing a bunch of people based on Shakespeare movies, or Shakespeare
oh,
plays.
I just love him. He's just
Yeah,
such a force of the screen. Like, oh,
yeah.
so I guess I'm at my number one. And it, my friend, is a cheat. Which
Huh.
I feel like I have done every episode now on of Film Vultures, but it's not a cheat because it's three movies, but it's if you like the first movie, go watch the other two, obviously. And it is a trilogy that I put off for way too long, and I think everyone puts off because it just seems like two people walking and talking.
Oh, Lord.
Uh,
Are you gonna say Red, White, and Blue by Kozlowski or whatever?
no, no, it is the 1995 romantic drama Before Sunrise.
Hmm.
And then, obviously, if you like that one, it's Before Sunset and then Before Midnight. So it's Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, and yes, they meet in the first movie and they walk and they talk for three movies. And it is Richard Linklater who directed Boyhood, which I think is obviously an easier sell. Even if the gimmick gets you in and everything and blah blah blah. But man, I put this off for so long, and I think this would be homework for 50% of people. I think, um,
People that just don't like talking movies probably
yes,
won't
exactly.
have a
If
problem.
if you need something going on, like if you don't want to like, this is a movie where you can almost it's beautiful to look at, obviously, but it's because it's in France, the first one, I'm pretty sure, and it's one of those movies where you can almost listen to it as a podcast. It's just
Right.
it's the dialogue is just so rich and beautiful, and I love these movies. I'm not a big romantic movie person. Like, I don't love romance, but like this is done so well because it's not just romance. It's life. It's discussions about life and where you are in life and where you get there, and each movie is a growth on where they ended up in the last movie. And anyways, uh that's just my passionate plea for people to watch the Before Sunrise trilogy. And uh
Guess what
they're
I've not watched any of?
the Before Sunrise trilogy.
Yes, they're in the box right now.
Oh, are they really? Oh man.
This is the homework movie for me. I literally is a
See,
homework movie for me, and I know I'm gonna like him. And I was listening to the
yeah,
whole middle class film class series on him, so it's coming up for me. So it
yeah,
will be watched.
good. I'm worried now that they're gonna be like too hyped for you, but
No, I
I
don't think
know
so.
you've watched movies that have been super hyped before, that you've actually loved. So
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about that with you, but yeah. So I'm so excited for you to watch them. That's crazy that I'm gonna take it and say three movies that aren't on my list that you haven't seen. But I did cheat, so that's
No,
okay.
I don't think that's a cheat. I think that's fair because they are a unit, I think. So I think that
Yeah.
counts.
Yeah.
And you don't have to really, you talk about one, you've talked about the basic concept of all of them. You're just not, they're all different as far as how they
Yes.
progress.
There's a
So
lot
yeah,
more fighting in the third one, obviously, because of their
is
age
it hand
and
to hand fighting? It's like
no,
action,
no. Yeah. Julie
violence,
Delpy.
blood.
Actually, it is. They were just talking about naked fighting on the Film Vault, and all I can think about is there's a Julie Delpy naked fighting scene but it's not fist to cuffs. It's she's just there. She's just having a fight with Ethan Hawke, like discussion fight, and she is topless, and the whole fight. And I'll just never forget that. Not because she's topless, just because of the oddity of the situation, right? Of just being nude and having this intense conversation, and not even cognizant to the fact that you're naked. Yeah, I'm getting way ahead of myself, but great movies. So you're number one. You're number one.
My number one. Okay, this is one. This is the only one that I had seen some of as a
Okay.
child.
Mm-hmm.
But that also was part of what made me think it was going to be homework, and also the fact that it's overhyped so much. And I did put down that I don't know if that ever happens to you. So it can happen both ways, right? You can see something when you're a little kid and you love it, and of course you see it 20, 30 years later, and you're like, oh boy, no,
Mm.
no. And even something you see in your teens, 20s, or 30s,
Mm.
you're not much, you're there now. But I mean, uh, when I was in my 20s and 30s, there's certain movies I see and I go back and watch them and like, oh yeah, not so much anymore. Or
Yeah.
wow, why did I not love that movie? And now I love it. So you can
Mm.
go either way with movies. So this one, very, very famous movie, probably way up on the top of that AFI list, um, almost all the time. But I would be willing to guess that this is homework for some people. And I bet
Mm.
you most people consider it homework. And that is a former San Francisco police detective juggles wrestling with his personal demons and becomes obsessed with the hauntingly beautiful woman he has been hired to trail who may be deeply disturbed. And that is 1958's Vertigo.
I haven't seen it
Vertigo.
yet.
Vertigo,
Yeah.
I believe, will be homework for some, but I believe the a good portion of people who've never watched it because they just think they know what it is might be surprised and
Mm.
might love this movie. I don't know if this is a movie for you, but
Mm.
I know, so all I know is I watched it the first time I was just like a little kid. I was bored to death. I think some people still be bored to death.
Mm.
But this is such a deeply beautiful and obsessive and weird movie, even for Hitchcock. So I don't know
Yeah.
how much you love Hitchcock.
I
And
do.
Hitchcock, first of all, the thing with Hitchcock is he just loves everything is a controlled soundstage. Like
Mm.
he is controlling the look of that world, and it's fake as fake can be.
Oh
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yes.
But within that, he does great suspense and all these kind of things. And this movie is the first half of that
Mm.
beautiful, controlled, impeccable color design, weirdly precise sets, but an obsessive,
Yeah.
crazy obsessive guy who just can't get over this woman that he's supposed to watch. And
Yeah.
it's a two-part movie. And that's what makes it even harder for people because the first half, a certain thing happens, and the second half, another thing happens, which is even weirder. I love this movie. I did not think I loved this movie. I went back and watched it a couple years ago, and I know that Greg loves it. I know a lot of people love it.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's one of those movies that just is absolutely homework for people, and a lot of people never even pull the trigger because of that.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, like you said, it's at the Vertigo was number one, I think, or
Yeah.
was that Rare Wind? Yeah. Yeah, Vertigo. So
So it seems like a critic movie, right?
yeah, like oh, like yeah, but
Heard it, seen it, whatever.
yeah, exactly. And all of Hitchcock that I've seen, I've liked, but Hitchcock also varies. He's like he
Yes.
doesn't not like crazy varies, but like he definitely does because I mean you've got the birds to Vertigo, right? And everything in between. But I'm it's been on my watch list for since Letterboxd, I joined Letterboxd, and it's one that I have pushed off
Yep.
forever. So
Forever and ever and ever. And
because I thought it was,
I would say of all the ones on here, I don't necessarily think this is going to be the one for you, but one
I
of these
feel like I'm
days,
gonna like it, but
you might dive into it.
yeah, I'm definitely gonna give it a shot one day. Maybe I'll put it as my next horror suggestion for my horror group. But
It's not horror though. Don't. It's not
oh,
horror. I
I
wouldn't
can't
do
I
it.
pretend? So it's just like
No,
I get to watch.
they'll be
No.
very upset with you.
Okay.
I would not do it.
Do you have any also rants? Well, let's run down our list once more
Yeah.
if you can
Yeah.
go down your 5.
My 5 were Babette's Feast from '87, Tin Man from '87, Ace in the Hole from '51, which those Tin Man and Ace in the Hole I would strongly suggest to you.
Yeah.
Vampyre or Vampyre from
Mm-hmm.
1932. You got to watch out. There's a bunch of movies with that name. 1932 by Carl Dreyer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, versions of Vampire and
Yeah, yeah.
The Vampire. You have to kind of watch out.
Oh, yeah.
Carl Dreyer is what you're looking for.
Okay.
And then Vertigo, which
Vertigo.
everyone knows what that is.
Yes. So my number 5 was Macbeth, the 2016 version. Number 4 was The Wailing. Number 3, Women Talking. Number 2, 12 Angry Men, and number 1 is the Before Sunrise trilogy. So, yeah, so we definitely covered a broad expanse there. I'm happy. Do you have any also
Yeah.
rans?
Um, I could bring up a bunch of things for also rans. A lot of epics, I think would be
Yes.
also rans. But some of them I don't love as much. But a few things like, I don't know, the Dirty Dozen or stuff like that, I think that
Yeah.
are really, really great. But I think a lot of people might think like, oh, old war movie. I don't care. It's a dad movie, but actually has a lot of good stuff in it. But I'm going to give you one we just watched and is just in the theaters / streaming now. And
Oh,
I guarantee a bunch of people are going to consider this homework. And that is a movie we praised last week called Love Gets a Room.
oh, it's on my watch list. I can't wait to watch it.
I think Love Gets a Room is going to be seen as homework movie to a lot of people. The poster, the name doesn't mean anything to people. It
No.
sounds like a teen romance
Yep.
because it's the name of this play that was done in the Warsaw Ghetto. So no one's going to know
Mhm.
that. The poster looks like a cheesy romance. And then when they hear what it's about, oh, a bunch of people putting on a play in the Warsaw Ghetto during during World War II, but it's kind of a musical and it's kind of a love story. I
Yeah.
don't think so. That sounds terrible. It's so fantastic and so
Yeah.
wonderful. I think that that's my forward promo of homework movie that people need to watch.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, that's I'm so glad you brought that up because like the way you guys talked about it last week, I was so enamored. So like, immediately went on the watch list and I will watch that
I
very
think
soon.
it
So
should appear streaming somewhere, probably free pretty soon. Because this seems
yeah.
like the kind of movie that's not going to have long legs like for money. So
Yeah.
if you keep your eyes open, it's going to be on a HBO Max or a Hulu or something. I bet you pretty soon. And when it does, snap it up.
Do you see any Oscar potential for it or it's probably just going to get
Potential. Oh, absolute
forgotten? Yeah.
potential. But it'll first of all, it'll probably immediately get into international release.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it
Yeah.
got released internationally a year or two ago.
Right. I think I saw it says 2021. Yeah, because I
So
sent
it probably won't be nominated for anything because of that. It
yeah.
should. It
Yeah.
should be. It's
That's
got
too bad.
songs that could be nominated. It's got
Mm.
stuff that could be nominated for sure.
So a couple that I just put and that I mulled around that were almost on the list were Nebraska, Changeling with Angelina Jolie. I really liked that movie, even though it's a lot of people didn't. I almost had Das Boot on there, but
the
I
5-hour version.
yes, which I
Which
watched
I saw in the theater.
Oh, really? Oh my
Yes.
gosh. I watched it when I had COVID. And it is a little bit homework, so that's kind of why I took it off. Especially it's because it's essentially a mini series.
Sure.
A Film Vault favorite, Calvary, Notes on a Scandal, with Judi Dench and Cate Blanchett. I love them so much, so they could act out the dictionary.
Sure.
Another one from last year, After Sun, 12 Years a Slave,
Drive My Car.
That's homework.
How about She Said from last year?
I love She Said. I love that
That's
movie
homework
too.
for a lot of people,
Yes, and
and it was good.
yes,
I
and
liked it.
what's funny? I almost did She Said and Women Talking as a tie on my list. I almost did that. The King's Speech. There's a foreign movie called Tangerines, not Tangerine. But have you seen Tangerines?
I haven't. I
Um,
remember them talking about it. It's on my list to watch for sure. In
it's
fact,
it's it's really good. Maybe put that in the box if it's not in there. It's a foreign movie, and I really love that. And then The Deer Hunter, which I just watched,
yes.
and I just love this movie so much. Pig, with Nicolas Cage.
Ooh,
But that might be homework for some people, but that's one of my favorite movies.
Come and See. Come and See is definitely a homework movie for people.
I've been waiting to see that one. Because you guys in the CinemAddicts group went through a whole thing where it seemed like all of you watched it at the same time, or like and then it just kept going and going, and I should have jumped on the bandwagon, but it's definitely one that I'm
And
I'm gonna.
it could be homework, but it also might f up your life. So I just
Yes,
warn yourself on that
I,
one.
I,
So
I like movies like that. I like movies that will might destroy me a little bit.
it will destroy you a little bit.
So other than we're almost gonna wrap up here. Other than uh I can't even remember. Love Gets a Room. What are some other movies you've seen this year that you can recommend to people
Oh
that
gosh.
you've liked?
Yeah, there's
Sorry, I had to.
quite a few. No, I can do this. I can do this. Hang on.
Okay,
Don't go anywhere.
because I
Don't
was
go
just
anywhere.
thinking, like,
Stay
God, while I
here.
have you, I know like some movies because you and Greg and Bruce see you and Greg and Eric
Me
see
and me.
so
Yeah, so me
much.
and me do see
Yes.
things.
uh,
We've talked about Linoleum quite a bit. And
yep.
Unicorn Wars. We love
Yep.
Compromat, which doesn't get
Oh
talked about at all.
no.
Compromat is great.
Mm,
Um, couple of How to Blow Up a Pipeline was really good.
I
Some
like
people
that
hated
one.
that
Yeah.
one. I think you liked Unwelcome as well. I loved
Yes, I really
Unwelcome.
liked a little horror
Unwelcome,
movie. Yeah.
yeah, Unwelcome just got on Shutter recently, so it's easier
Oh,
for people to find.
okay.
So Unwelcome is getting a little bit of late love, but Unwelcome is a great fun movie if you're not looking for such
Yes.
a heady movie.
Yes.
Um, Suzume anime,
Yeah, I'm gonna watch. Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. Um, what else did I add? Left Gets Room I had on there. There was like one
Hmm.
other one for you guys. A Sisu was great this year.
Sisu. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Um, boy, I've got a few here. Sanctuary. No one's talking about Sanctuary.
My buddy Ant from the Hollywood Persona, he saw that at an early screening like a Chicago Film Festival, and
Yeah.
he's been talking about that one quite a bit. He really liked it. So
Sanctuary is
um
one of those like two people talking kind of movies that
yeah,
is vibrant as hell.
and
And
I'm not a
it's,
huge Chris Abbott fan, so
well,
that's but
the woman in, I forget her name now, is quite amazing. And
okay.
she owns the movie and
Mm.
she owns Abbott in the movie. So you might like,
Yeah.
I mean, literally and figuratively, she owns him in
Yes.
this
Okay.
movie.
Okay.
So
Okay.
think, I think you won't mind him in this because he plays such a weaselly, ineffectual person
Mm.
that, and that she is just his better at every moment in this movie, and
Yeah.
it's just a challenge of souls in that.
Yeah.
It's really good. And one other one I'll bring up that no one, even my co-host, didn't like as much as I did, but I thought it was a bonkers, amazing, great movie, was The Attachment Diaries. No one's talking about The Attachment Diaries, and even my co-host didn't like it as much.
Yeah.
It's it's like old Madivar meets Ari Aster. I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know what it is. It's so weird.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to like. Yeah, I
It's
don't even
like
remember you talking about it, but
giallo
yeah.
noir-ish
Okay.
craziness.
Well,
I love it.
I basically use you guys to just keep me up to date. And you get to assign me a movie before we
Yes.
go. Yeah.
Well,
So.
you have a choice.
Oh, okay. All right.
'Cause I don't know if you've seen any of these movies.
Okay.
So there's a movie from, I want to say it's late 70s, early 80s, called Breaking Away,
Okay.
which you may
Don't.
know nothing about.
I'm gonna just
Very,
look it
very
up. Hold on.
early Dennis Quaid movie.
No, I haven't seen it. No.
Breaking Away.
Okay.
Or if you want to go quite a bit newer, you might have seen this movie, but Sarah Polley, which I was not expecting Sarah Polley to come up, that is Go.
I haven't seen that one. No.
And that's a 90s movie, a super 90s movie, and I think a super weird, fun post Pulp Fiction-y intersecting timeline story kind of thing, but also rave culture and a bunch of young people and just craziness. So I would highly recommend Go.
Okay.
And the last one was late 70s, early 80s, I want to say, George C. Scott movie called The Changeling. So there's The Changeling coming up again.
Right.
I'm going to say Go.
You're going to say Go? Okay.
I think Go. If you haven't seen any of those, I say Go.
Okay. Because
Go's the youngest, it's the weirdest, it's the most, there's the most stuff going on.
Yes.
And even if you don't love it, you're going to like something in it. And
all
it's got a young Sarah Polley in it.
Oh, and she's in it. Oh, she didn't direct it.
Yeah, she's an actor in it.
Oh,
no, I think it's, I want to say Doug Liman.
Oh, okay. Doug Liman.
Look it up. Who directed?
Go?
Let's find it out.
Go, Sarah Polley. 1999. Directed by. Wait, come on. Timothy, Doug Liman, you were right. Doug Liman. It's got with Taye Diggs as well, William Fichtner, however you say that. Katie Holmes, Breckin Meyer, Jay Moore, Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm excited.
And
I'm excited.
I'll just say this: it's got my favorite ecstasy trip out scene and my favorite cat subtitle scene.
So no, we just got you. If you were to do those top five, we just got your top five of ecstasy scenes and what cat. Sorry, what
subtitles? Was that? Cats with subtitles.
We should next time we have you on, cats with subtitles. That's great. And see, this is another movie, and this is my year of movies where I watch movies that I remember seeing the cover of.
Everyone's seen the cover of this thing. Probably.
Yes. Okay.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
They just thought, oh, this is a dumb teen comedy.
Exactly. I remember seeing the cover of this.
It is kind of a dumb teen comedy, but it's way more than that too.
That's okay. I mean, that's fine. So where can people find you and CinemAddicts if they're going searching?
Easiest to find me, obviously, CinemAddicts Facebook group's easy. You can find me on Facebook, of course, too. I'm on Twitter, but I just kind of use it sub thing. But CinemAddicts every week on there for sure.
Yeah.
Every week you put it into your podcast.
Yep.
Whatever podcast scraper you have, we're there. We also do have our sister channel, which Find Your Film used to be our main core one, but now Find Your Film has almost every week we have interviews. Sometimes we have other interesting oddities over there, so it's definitely worth checking out. And then we're trying to get our Patreon up and more vibrant right now, but
I just subscribed.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm still subscribed to our own podcast.
Oh, yes, because it was originally just an Anderson and Greg thing, really, and now,
So somehow I'm paying for myself. I don't know how this works.
Well, that's some sort of weird prostitution that we...
Snake eating its tail. I don't know what it is. But so that, if you want to hear, we every month we'll do an extra year where we pick a couple movies from a year. And actually the year we're going to do is 1999.
Right.
We're going to be putting a vote out this week for people, but the only people who can actually vote, and you actually gave us a list, thank you very much. The only people that actually vote are on the Patreon.
Greg is just so nice, and I was like, and I had time to kill, and I went through that list, and I'm like, here's all the ones I haven't seen, and then I was like, oh, well, I'll copy and paste it into here, and then he was like, oh, okay, we wrote all these down, and I'm like, oh, you're so nice, you didn't have to do that. I was just making conversation, and he's just such a sweetheart. So definitely, so it's CinemAddicts, Cinema DDICTS. There's only one A in the middle there. So if
CinemAddicts
or CinemAddicts if you're Anderson.
You get a whole different bunch of pictures come up.
Yes, and
you might like them. So hey, no shame.
Yeah, well, no shame.
Enjoy what you enjoy, people.
Exactly. And like I said, I completely forgot about that. So Find Your Film. Eric and Greg and Bruce, they all interview people for like, indie movies, bigger movies, like everything, directors and actors. Like just last week, Greg interviewed from Ghostbusters. What's his name?
Oh God, my brain's forgotten it too.
Ernie Hudson, right? Ernie Hudson.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
He just interviewed Ernie Hudson, and I was like, wow, like and
Eric's done a lot.
yeah, like he interviewed one of my, he interviewed the director of Sisu. He interviewed a few months ago, and
he might be getting Kyle Gallner come up here in a couple days.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool. He's great. And so yeah, definitely like these guys are your source to good movies and movies you might not have heard about. So and as always, you can or homework or more homework. I love Bruce, but he's also pushed me towards some homework movies, but that's okay. It
that's
happens.
All right. We'll get that copy of Annette off to you soon.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Bruce, so much for coming on.
Sure, thank you for having me on, man.
Yes, as always, it's great to chat with you. So that was great.
I look forward to hearing what you think of Go.
Yes,
I quite love that movie.
You do. Okay, I thought you just said you didn't. Yeah. You didn't quite like that movie.
I do quite love that movie.
I was thinking, why would he just assign me that if he didn't like it? But anyways, thank you, Bruce, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you everyone for listening.
All right. Thank you so much, Bruce.
Sweet.
I will. I'm gonna hit stop recording here. Just 1 second.
It was just funny how I had already written